Even film critics need film critics. Yes, even the ones that see all the movies need to have the trusted ones to know which ones to avoid. Like, for instance, this weekend we had Bullet Train, 13 Lives, a Ron Howard movie, and we had a new Predator movie. That old bastard from the Arnold, man, in the jungle, messing with people, the origins tale from on Hulu called Prey. And so you got three movies right there. And if you're just a casual film fan who doesn't, do this and write about it, talk into a camera, it's not really recommended. It's kind of like a drug and an incoming personality trait that just becomes you when you start writing about movies. So, as we sip a little Stella, you're watching In the Buff. I'm Dan Buffa. Yes, I got my Cardinal shirt on. You got the Legend shirt. We are in the office. I have T minus 14 minutes until the pets need to be fed. So it's kind of like I put myself in the sweat box. I get the little bitty tight space to do my thing. But people might think, what are you really getting out of a film critic? It's like not like we're always saving you money these days. We could be, it could be an only theaters thing, and we could say tell you to go watch it, and you go and you spend all the money on tickets, $12 to $15 for adults, $10 to $15 for a popcorn combo. You're not going to say no to the icy and the candy, so you're going to get one of those. I would say that we save you that money, or maybe we cost you it when our tastes don't really run the same way. And with a lot of movies being on streaming, we may not be saving you a ton of money. Like, oh, we told you to watch that one Netflix movie out of their 95 released in that month. So you can put that in your allotment of what you normally watch. But when there is an only theaters release and you're kind of like leaning on us to tell you what to do, what our real gift to you is time saving. We save you time. We're gonna have you not give your hour and a half to 2 hours, and that could suck. I mean, let me just tell you, case in point, a good review of this week's new release, Bullet Train, is that it was two-thirds pretty good and a third holy shit bad. And so you put that together, and I still haven't written my review yet. And Allied, that the marketing company that sets up the screenings here locally, they're probably like, "What the heck?" And I'm trying to put it into words, and you know, it's a movie that leaves me kind of puzzled. So I need to take my time to write it. But I also, you know, before I recommend that, I want to tell somebody, is it worth your time? Will they like it? Will they think it's a little more goofy and fun? Um, for the record, a film critic can't do that. You have to just tell them what you thought. We can't think too much of you. That sounds selfish, but when you're a writer, if you do the podcasting, maybe it's more about words and where you put them, and if you really like something, you really dislike it. But when it comes to writing, you can't really, you don't have to be emphatic and boom, blunt. No room for discussion, no room for movement, but you have to be emphatic about what you think. Because if not, people are just going to go to somebody else. They're going to think, oh, well, that guy's better, or she just does a better job of getting to the point. And for me, I would tell you to skip Bullet Train in the theater. And so that's an only theaters release. Of course, in 2 to 3 weeks, maybe 2 weeks, it'll be on an Amazon service where it's still $20. But you think, hey, you can get your food, you can reach into your fridge for your own food and drink, and you can watch it from home with about five friends. That it might normally cost over $100 for just your tickets. But so that's what we could save you, because a lot of these movies still go into theaters, and about let's just say, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month, they go on to streaming. And just a side note, the one thing that I have a hard thing doing is knowing which way to put, where to look at the eyes. So if the eyes are dancing around, it's because I'm looking at the screen, how much time we got, looking at the camera. This is the same problem I had on Show Me St. Louis and Studio STL that I mastered after a while. And it's time for a drink. But for us to really know what we think about a movie, we have to get there first before we can tell you about it. I've talked about Bullet Train all week, but the resulting review is that I would tell you to skip it. I would tell you to pocket that money for a couple weeks, or like I said, 3 weeks to a month, maybe. Because if it doesn't do great in theaters, they're going to push it into streaming. It's kind of like if something's not working, well, let's shake it up and put it over there. Okay, it's doing well there. And then they'll keep it there. And they'll probably keep that $20 paywall there for a while. But what we really do is money, yes, on occasion, but we're saving you time. Like if I watched all three of these movies, Prey, 13 Lives, and Bullet Train, and told you one of them was good and the other two are bad, you're going to save 3.5 to 4 hours of time. I mean, there's people like the great Holy L on Twitter who watches more movies than I do, new movies a week. She's a machine. I'm getting more picky. I've been at this going to screenings with Allied legit for 10 years. We passed that, I think, in May. My first screening, my first two that are very notable in my mind. Fun fact from the film Buffa here on In the Buff, episode 5, what a film critic really gives to you. My first two film critic scheduled screenings were Hunger Games and Avengers way back in 2012. So that's how long it's been. So I get a little more picky. And so it wasn't like, well, Prey, Hulu didn't screen that. And they didn't put that in theaters. So stupid. They could have did only in theaters for that for 2 to 3 weeks and then put it on Hulu. Or maybe let Hulu subscribers see it in 2 weeks or maybe even after a week, but put it in theaters. A movie about featuring the Predator, the Arnold character, this Predator, he's a monster, this alien from another planet that takes out soldiers and runs into Arnold's platoon and then comes back for two and then predators and yes, I'm still tackling that word. Sometimes, words you have to say them how you say them and hope that the audience gets it. But the good thing about the new movie is it's Prey, and they didn't put it in theaters. They put Bullet Train in theaters. The Predator. Like it's got Arnold. If they had Arnold, this is the sad thing, people. And the Adrian Brody film, Predators, plural, a bunch of them. Not really. A bunch of people trying to hunt the predators. And then the one with Boyd Holbrook that I don't even know what it's called, The Predator. Like, okay, you're gonna put a "the" in there. James Gunn did that with the Suicide Squad, but it was a better movie than the first one, so we forgave him for that. It's not Suicide 2, it's the Suicide Squad. But with this movie, if the Prey had Arnold, Hulu would have put that, or whoever originally had it and gave it to Hulu, or if Hulu had it originally, they would have said we had to put this in theaters. It's Arnold. It's like the Terminator film. If they made a Terminator film without Arnold, if it was just like the Terminator, but not Arnold, they put that on streaming. And what I've heard is that the movie's brilliant, Prey. It's kind of like the origin, going back to where, Billy's character in the first film, the you know, his the Native Americans running in to this creature for the first time. And he didn't have all of his weaponry. He didn't have that little laser gun. And so it's kind of like a mano, and it's a female this time going against. It's kind of like a new age, like, what should have been back then. Back then, the woman was just like the captive. And now in these days, the atomic blonde days, females kick ass. I don't know why it took so long. Did it really take Michelle Rodriguez punching a guy in the nose to go, oh, Uma Thurman throwing kicks for Quentin Tarantino? But that's what we do. Like if I watched that and I said, hey, unlike the last 4 Predator films, this one's worth watching. And you go, oh, you look at the reviews, you might look at a few more. But as I said in the first line, we have our own film critics. So there was a Pete Davidson film called Bodies, 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 and for A24. And so 2 things go through my head, and this is just for me, a film critic, is that we're going to get those at the end of the year. If you do this for a few years, I think I first got screeners back in 2017, I think, 18 maybe. And you get them every year. They start coming in the mail. It's great. Sometimes it's overwhelming. It's always overwhelming, actually. It's overbearing. You know right away you're not going to be able to watch these because in a perfect world, film critics would get paid for reviews, but it's rare these days. Like, for example, and I'll just throw them out there. Sorry, throw them under the bus. It's KSTK. And a lot of local places, they don't want to pay for them. They'll publish them, but they don't want to pay for them. And there's a fun fact of why you find my reviews at doseofbuffa.com. It's because I'm going to, put them on my own site, build up my own statistics slowly but surely as I try to get on some kind of a consistent reviewing. I'm reviewing one a week, but I like doing two a week. So I'm kind of been a little bit slower to the draw this season. Again, getting a little more picky. 10 years of writing for filmatic.com, Eric Moore, Chris McHugh, you know what I'm talking about. KSTK, I think Jordan Palmer started putting them on there in 2014 or 15. And then, all the way to now to where I have a couple articles left for them and I'm done. So, but, I mean, for somebody like me who wants to watch less, I need film critics that I trust. And Bodies, 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 for example. Yes, that's the title. That word three times. It's kind of a punk, kind of like, comedic horror film with some friends, and things are going to go bad. There's bodies in the title, and it's three times. People are going to die. And what I've heard is it's just a little amateurish. It doesn't hit the mark that it wants to be. And so for me, I'm going to skip that, knowing that in the back of my head, I'll probably get that at the end of the year. A24 sends out a big package. Neon and A24 send the best. They just, here you are. Neon sends this little booklet. It's about this thick. It's kind of like a deep, like a 400, 500 page book thick of this little fold out little thing where it's all your DVDs, all their screeners, all their big movies for the year. Probably did more than what they give us, but these are the ones they want us to watch. Like The Great Pig was in there, which was just fantastic. But in a nutshell, what film critics save you is money sometimes, but what we're really putting in your pocket is minutes. And because I know when I watched Bullet Train, I left. I was just kind of, when you watch a movie that you had, David Leitch was the director and he did Deadpool 2, which I thought was just as fun as the first one. Had Josh Brolin, had Zazie Beetz. Zazie Beetz is really wasted, not drunk. Like I might be in a couple more of these after we get off the air and I go fold some laundry. Is there anything more redundant and robotic than laundry? Bad movies can be like that, but you know what also is lawn mowing? Doing that tomorrow. And laundry every damn day. But yeah, Zazie Beetz, she's a great talent, and they didn't use her right in Bullet Train. But the director did Hobbs and Shaw as well, and that was great. So I had high hopes, and Brad Pitt, who just coasted through the movie. The only takeaway I will say as we wrap this up is that Brian Tyree Henry and Aaron Taylor Johnson, I wanted a spinoff with their brothers, Peach and Tangerine. And you're like, what? Those are their names? Yes, those are the names. You have to watch it to find out. And that's what I'm going to say in the end of my review. When I do write it, it's watchable. It's just not that good. Yeah, it would have made, one of those streaming movies where you want to watch in three parts over 2 days. But what I will be watching this weekend is Prey, the new origin tale of Predator, not the Predator, not Predators, or Predator and the Alien, and Alien and the Predator, and the Predator and the donkey and whatever. It is Prey, and also 13 Lives. The documentary came out last year about those lives that were saved in that cave, the 13 lives that could have been gone if it weren't for some really, really good swimmers and divers who could hold their breath for a lot longer than I could. And guess who one of them is? Viggo Mortensen, Colin Farrell, and a couple other recognizable faces. But that's a Ron Howard film, and that went right to Amazon. I think it went in theaters. It did get a theater release last week. There was a screening before last Friday's release. I just didn't get to. You need to make decisions. And I thought, I got lazy. I'm going to watch it on Amazon Prime because I have you have a decent TV. It's not like 1996 where you're going to watch on this little, 22-inch box screen. We're going to go to Kenrick. It was an easy decision. Now, even the TVs in our house and everybody's house that I even go to, it's a 48-inch at least. It's about a 50-inch. Who the hell has a 32 in their living room? Bless you, as they say. We're at the 14:40 mark, 14-minute and 45-second mark. This has been about what film critics really do for you. Some of us are pompous dickheads. Some of us get way too into it. Some of us like to use fancy words like bewilderment. I just tell you that is it good or not? Did it? And if I start using fancy words, usually it's because I liked it a lot, and I am trying to find ways to describe it. Because one of the hardest parts about putting that shit into words is trying to describe what your brain and your heart have already talked about. And you're like, hey man, give me what'd you really think? And that's what comes out on the page on doseofbuffa.com. So look for Boa Train there this weekend and pray, and maybe even 13 lives, and write reviews at a gingerly pace. Since they don't want to pay for it, you're on my time. Deal with it. This is Dan Buffa in the buff. More beer to come and a burp. That burp was sponsored by the lack of a sponsor that I had for this podcast. But we are just getting started. 5 episodes in. Expect the next one to be about, I have no idea. That's the idea. The time of it, the length, the topics. It could be what you think I would talk about, or it could be not what you would think. Maybe next time it could be a long soliloquy stretched out over 10 to 12 minutes about Skittles or Boston baked beans. Maybe next time we'll talk about what is your favorite movie theater treat, and I will tell you mine. I will tell you if my stomach and heart and doctor all got together and said, "Ha ha, eat whatever you want, big guy," that's what I would get tomorrow on In the Buff. Until then, stay cool. And if you go outside in this St. Louis heat, if it's hot where you're at, bring a damn towel and tell the people that go, "Why are they wearing a towel?" Because I could flick my sweat on your fucking forehead. Tell them that. Good night.